Hey guys, welcome back to Garden in Greece. A couple weeks ago, we finished our bed build, this 4x8 bed. And if you didn't catch that video, I'll link it down in the description below. Today, we thought we would talk to you about what we fill our raised beds with. Now, we did this bed a little differently than we did all of our other beds back here. And we're gonna build another one and we're gonna fill it just the way we did this one. But before I tell you what we did differently on this one, let me tell you about what our soil mixture actually is. Now, we had looked into purchasing bagged raised bed mix, and even at a good price for a good quality soil, which I think my comparison was off of Kellogg's raised bed mix, and it was around here $9.97 for a 2 cubic foot bag. The cost to fill one of these beds is $250. So $250 for the soil, and we spent about a little under $100 to build each one. We found a more economical way to go about this and still have quality soil. You can interchange parts of this with things that are available to you, because what is available to me might not be available to you. So the bulk of what our soil is actually a garden soil from a local landscape supply. Now, we literally have one right down the street from us. This scoop of garden soil from a local landscaping place costs $35. And the garden soil comprises of 50% topsoil, 25% leaf compost, and 25% mushroom compost. And then that, for the beds that we did last year, we used a cubic yard and a half for each one. So last year we didn't have a truck, we had it delivered. We only paid a $20 delivery fee, and we had purchased 3 cubic yards. Now, mind you, we divided that 3 cubic yards between the 2 4x8 beds, and we put a little bit of it in a shallow stock tank that we had mixed some other stuff into. So not a whole lot went into that one. But we didn't just stop there and just use garden soil, because garden soil in a raised bed could get compacted. It's great to have out in your in-ground beds, that's fine, but we needed to add a little bit more stuff. Now, we also added into the soil about 2 wheelbarrows of... Hey guys, if you haven't already, please subscribe and hit that like button. Thank you. And share. A aged or composted manure. Now, we have available to us for almost free alpaca manure, and we're going to be mixing it with alpaca poop. Now, you don't have to use alpaca manure. We have in the past used black cow, so the bags of black cow you can get at any of the big box stores. You could use a mushroom compost or whatever kind of compost you can get your hands on. We like to add manure in, and we also top dress all of our beds in compost that we actually make here, because we do actually make quite a bit of compost here. But we like to use an animal manure, aged or composted, in our raised beds and all of our beds in reality. So we had about 2 wheelbarrows full of that, and I did a conversion earlier. I'll put it on the screen about how many cubic feet those 2 wheelbarrows ended up being. So we have the garden soil, the manure or whatever compost it is you want to use if you don't like using an animal manure compost. And then we also added in a cubic foot of peat moss. Now, you could use coco coir if you want. By adding the peat moss and the next item, we are helping to make the soil not so dense. We're making it fluffier. These are like essentially big pots. So we need the soil to be not as dense and for air and water to flow through it a little bit better. So we, in each bed, put a cubic foot of peat moss, and then we also did a cubic foot of perlite in each one. And I'm going to put the cost that we ended up paying for each of those, and it'll be different depending where you live or depending on how you procure that. Now, that made amazing soil, just that. And then throughout the growing season, we do mulches. We actually love using our cut grass as mulch on our garden beds because it then also breaks down and feeds the soil and builds soil. And then we did leaf in the fall. Now, on this bed, what we did differently, and it saved us more money than doing it the other way, is we have a bunch of old downed trees on our property. Trees that have been cut down years ago, trees we have cut down last year, you name it. There's a ton of limbs that fall down in storms. They get cut up and put in a pile. So we had a bunch of rotting tree limbs and stumps and such. And this is what is referred to as a hugel culture concept, but in a raised beds. We have some really old decayed logs. They've been decaying for years, and we're gonna put them in. This is considered like a hugel culture idea, so a raised bed hugel culture bed. And these are gonna continue to break down, and they're gonna create essentially more soil for our gardens and more nutrients. So this year we're doing 2 hugel culture raised beds. Hi. Yeah, I'm trying to find some goodies in there. I just dug in and there's still a ton of worms in here. So we filled pretty much halfway up in our beds with the old decaying logs and limbs that we had on the property. Now, if we didn't have logs and limbs on our property, we probably wouldn't have done it. We would have just done what we did in the other beds. But we wanted to try it. It serves 2 purposes. Well, more than that. One is we were just utilizing something on our property that we would have ended up either burning, which really old decaying logs aren't the best firewood. We would have probably taken them down to the joint compost facility where we also get our wood chips. What is really great about using logs in a garden space, doing the hugel culture idea, is they are essentially water batteries. All of these logs, these old logs, are going to act like a sponge. They're going to absorb water and they're going to hold it so that the plants have the ability to tap into that water reserve. So not only are they going to decay and create really great soil and but they're actually going to be batteries. So in the depths of summer, when it is super hot and everything's drying out, the roots of our plants can dig down deep and tap into that water battery that's been created. Now, our logs are really old. They've been sitting around and they were able to literally break apart, some of them. The trick to doing this so that you don't rob nitrogen from your soil is to make sure you have old decaying logs already. Do not start with new logs that were just cut down in the past year. You do not want to do that. They need to be well over a year old to before you throw them in here. Now, I wouldn't use, and I've seen a lot of people use it, fresh tree logs that they had cut down. We have trees that we had cut down within the past year. We didn't want to use those. A couple of reasons. One, that's our firewood for our fire pit. And 2, because I didn't want what I keep reading about, for them to rob the nitrogen from our soil while it's decaying. Now, the old logs are still decaying technically, but in those first couple years is when they do a really active decaying process, which could take a lot more nitrogen from your soil. I don't know how much it's taking from your soil, and I don't know how much it really affects your soil. I really don't want to find out. So we didn't use any of the fresher cut wood. I would definitely use wood that is over a year old cut down, preferably older if you have it available to you. Say a neighbor had a tree fall down, go offer to cut it up and let it stack up and sit for a year or so in your backyard if you have that ability. Now, like I said, you may not have tree limbs available to you. Just fill them up with soil. Your garden soil mix from a landscaper is way cheaper. We saved $100 and I'm gonna put it on the screen. I want to say it was close to $130 or $140 on each bed, filling it the way we filled it versus filling it with the bagged soil. So far in this bed that we did today, we have it halfway filled with the old logs and limbs. And then we have in this bed this year, we only needed 1 yard of garden soil. We still did 1 cubic foot of peat moss, a cubic foot of the perlite, and I believe that 2 wheelbarrows equals about 6 cubic feet. Yeah, cubic feet of aged manure, and we use the alpaca manure, and that's where it's got us right now. And we, between doing some of these things, we have let it settle. We've had a lot of rain, so it's kind of doing its little settling thing. And when we were putting those logs in, we really packed dirt around those logs so we didn't have as many air pockets and settling while we were putting soil in this first year. But we do have some settling because everything is getting moist and kind of working its way down. Now, with the couple remaining inches that we have left over, we have a batch of compost that we make on our property. And we don't have big containers. We have 3 kind of small containers, and one of them is ready to go now, and another one is almost ready. And then we're gonna top this off with one of those compost bins of our compost that we make here, kind of scratch it in a little bit to incorporate it with everything else. And then we're gonna mulch on that with probably our dried leaves because, well, we don't have grass yet. Everything's still dead looking. So I hope that was helpful for you guys. Please, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and that like button and share this with anybody that you think it might help. All right, guys, thank you for watching Garden and Grease. Have a good day.